A very special Yud Beis Tamuz. It's 90 years of the first Chag Geula. 90 years. In the Sichos, Chaim, the Sichos is, it's 20 years, it's 30, it's 90 years since Chag Geula. I just visited my grandfather. I said, you're a lucky man. The 90 years ago, the Frierdiker Rebbe wrote about you. You're a Yeled Chorutz, a sharp child. It was in Purim Cotton that year, 1927, and the Frierdiker Rebbe was in Moscow. He got word that his secretary, my great-grandfather, was arrested. He was told the first questions I asked him were, "Are you really the Gabbai of the Rebbe?" So he thought that has a connection to him. In the heels of that night, when he said the famous Maimah, Purim Cotton, Tofresh Peizayin, there was a historic Farbrengen, Farbrengen all night, and he said, "I don't care, I know there's agents here from the KGB," and he said words about them like, put them in their place. And he said a famous Maimah, V'kibla Yehudim, which the Rebbe said a Maimah based on that, which is Ata Tetzava, that's the last Maimah we have for the Rebbe. But how did Mazeda get the distinction of being a Yeled Chorutz? His father was arrested, and he was a child. He understood that this was dangerous, since he was a secretary of the Frierdiker Rebbe. So he went in and asked his father, where's that attaché case with all the sensitive documents? His father told him where it is. He was a kid, so it was a child running around, so that they didn't pay attention. He went into his private room. He took out that attaché case. He went to someone's home and he burnt all the documents. So he was over. The Frierdiker Rebbe said, "I was saved by a Yeled Chorutz, by a sharp child." So l'chaim. This is a special Chag Geula. It's a Chag Geula of 90 years. The original Yud Beis of Gimel Tamuz. The Frierdiker Rebbe wrote a lot about his experience being arrested in the days that he was in prison. The Frierdiker Rebbe was very into publishing, so he published, like Kahos in the early years, published a lot of stories from Marcus Lehman. Marcus Lehman, he was a German Jew, Shamshon Frol Hirsch Jew, and why did he write his novels? He wrote the novels because the kids were going away from Judaism, and he said, let's create, just like we have today, Eichlers, and you go in and you have a ton. You go in here to the library, and the kids get a ton of junk books to read, but most of them are junk. Well, Marcus Lehman said, I'm gonna produce quality stuff for Jewish kids. Marcus Lehman, the books are still a classic.
I think it's great.
Yeah. So the Frierdiker Rebbe published one of the first things in America. The Frierdiker Rebbe published the books of Marcus Lehman. Till today, Kahos prints the books of Marcus Lehman because it's really written well. The plot is great. It's all based on real Jewish history, but it's all done well. So it's a great writer, but he weaves in his worldview, which is a distinctly proud Jewish worldview, German Jew, Shamshon Frol Hirsch, very strong Jewish identity. He weaves it into the entire story. Terrific story. A lot of stories. There's the Marcus Lehman books. There's a few famous books from Marcus Lehman. Many books from Marcus Lehman. Kahos. Go into Kahos. Yeah. All in English, yeah. Translated from German, yeah.
They're beautiful books.
Terrific books. Even today, if you go into the Jewish store and there's so much junk, but it's good, for the kids, as long as they don't know where the Brooklyn Public Library is, I'm happy. So I'm not complaining that it's junk or not junk, as long as. But Marcus Lehman is something unique. So the Frierdiker Rebbe published his own story, which is, if you pick up, I don't know if it's translated to English, and I hope it is, and I assume it is. If you pick up the Frierdiker Rebbe's Rishimis, where he wrote about his experience being arrested in the Shpalerke, which was an infamous jail those days in the Soviet Union. The Shpalerke is still around, you know that? I was there 10 years ago with my wife, and we took a picture outside the Shpalerke. Yeah, a policeman came out and said, "Get out of here."
What did you take a picture of?
Of myself, my wife. I just smiled. So,
But where were you?
in front of the Shpalerke. I mean, 10 years ago is before. Now, Russia's a nasty place. I mean, this is 10 years ago. I mean, with $40 and a pack of cigarettes, you know, you almost could get into the Kremlin. You could do anything with a couple pack of cigarettes and a few American dollars. But still, the Shpalerke was the Shpalerke. The Frierdiker Rebbe wrote, it's remarkably well written. And when I was a kid, I used to read it, and I always enjoyed the story. But as I read the stories, I realize that the message here is so strong. It's really important to read this. It's very, very important. For example, the Frierdiker Rebbe describes every moment of from the moment he was arrested, the emotions of his wife, his mother, how the people were trembling in the house. You know, he describes how they were walking out of the house, and the KGB men were unfortunately Jewish. They're the ones that had the anti-religion. They're the ones that were gonna crush religion. They're gonna make sure no church was gonna stay and no shul was gonna stay, but the shul's gonna go first. And there were the two agents of the KGB. One of them was Nachman's and one was Lulav. Lulav was unfortunately a son of a Chossid. The Frierdiker Rebbe is a Chossid. And the Frierdiker Rebbe asked, "Will you allow me to take with me my talis and tefillin? Will you allow me to take my talis and tefillin? And will you allow me to pray there?" They said, "Sure." It was in front of the family and his wife and his mother. And as he took a bag with him, his talis and tefillin. He took with him a quart so he could wash his hands, and a sefer, tehillim. So he was walking with the bag, and Lulav took the Jewish fellow took the bag out of his hands. Frierdiker Rebbe grabbed the bag from him, and he said, "Why? My grandfather was carrying the bags of your grandfather. I'll carry your bag." He said, "No. Your grandfather followed my grandfather in Hashem's way, so he had the schus to carry his bag. You want me to follow in your way, you won't have the schus to carry my bag." He took the bag, he gave it to one of the soldiers who was a goy to hold the bag. The Frierdiker Rebbe describes that he came, when he was in jail, he realized that they're not going to let him have his talis and tefillin. They gave him over to this, they would rough up a person before they put him into the cell. They had these chayas that they would rough him up before to put a person in their place. They describes how this Russian gangster who was in charge to rough him up, you know, take him from here to there for a couple hours till he'll take him to his cell. So he had his tefillin, and it was already early in the morning. He realized he might not have his tefillin. So he asked the goy if he could stop for a moment, and he wants to just put on the tefillin for a minute, and he wants to say Shema. The goy said, "No, you're not going to do that." So the Frierdiker Rebbe was walking behind him, and the Frierdiker Rebbe figured he's just going to put on the tefillin. So they were walking up steps, and the Frierdiker Rebbe said he's just put on the tefillin. He put on the sharyad, and as he's about to put on the sharosh, this fellow turned around. Petya. This fellow turned around, and he saw the Frierdiker Rebbe putting on tefillin. He went into a rage. So you're turning in the Shpalerke to a synagogue, and he pushed him down the steps. He went flying down the steps, and Mazli didn't. And he said, Mazli didn't break a hand or a leg, but what happened was the buckle on his belt did break and went into his skin. And he said from the sheer pain, it was a miracle he didn't have a heart attack. After that, Petya gave him a rough up. One of the things that he describes is how Petya tells him how he kills people. He describes it at night. He says, "You're going to be killed. So it's only a matter of time." He says. That was the whole shtick, the Russian shtick, to get a person subdued, the person should. So he says, he describes how he kills people. He says, we get 6 ruble for every 6 ruble. It's like, what is a ruble worth? 6 ruble. It's like saying, 25 cents. He gets 6 ruble for every person he kills. But he describes how he has to kill them with his hands. And he describes that the walls are full of blood, and he has to clean up all the walls and wash the walls and the floors, and he has to drag him down to the basement. There was a pit, and they put hundreds of bodies, and once a month they get dragged into big barrels, and they're taken out of the city, and in some unknown places where they get dumped. So he says, yeah, there was 6 religious leaders just the other night. And after I got to breaking everyone's bones and they were all dying, one person, he just refused to die. He looked just like you, actually. He says, just looked pale, just looked like you. And he says the fellow wouldn't die. The guy was shaking a hand and a leg. He says, you know what I did? I let my friends go home for the night. I said I'm going to take care of the rest of the work. He says, I like to have myself a big tea with sugar. But this time I filled myself up a big tea, and I said I don't need the sugar. Sitting there and seeing this guy suffer as he's dying, that was good enough. I didn't need the sugar and the tea. So he says, finally I finished the tea and the guy didn't die. So I gave him 2 good zetzes, and then blood came all over came out of his throat. He died, and that was it. Cleaned up the room and buried him. Frierdiker Rebbe describes the story. Why does the Frierdiker Rebbe describe the story? Frierdiker Rebbe describes the story in everything that we see and we hear. According to Baal Shem Tov, there's a lesson in Avodas Hashem. If there's such inhumanity that could be among human beings to torture others, the Frierdiker Rebbe said that it hurt him to hear such a description. It teaches us, what kind of geschmack we could have in godliness. We in the morning when we wake up and we have ourselves a coffee, I think to myself sometimes, when I have my coffee in the morning, I don't need the sugar today. I'm going to have today my coffee with 2 sichas. 2 sichas. Give me a coffee with 1 sicha. It's good. If I really want some sugar, a jar of honey, I say, give me the sicha with. Give me the coffee with 2 sichas. Coffee and 2 sichas is so sweet. I'm telling you, when you sit and learn Chassidus, it's like sitting with a jar of honey. It's just like taking in the honey. L'chaim. It's a big simcha, 90 years of the first Chag HaGeula of Yud Beis Yud Gimel Tamuz. The Eibusher should help that this year, the 90th year, it shouldn't only be a Gula Protes, it should be a Gula Klolos of Kal Yisrael with the Gula Mitzvah Shlema Yidei Mashiach Tzidkeinu. Amen. Interesting, the story I just told you, which is in the Rishimus of the Frierdiker Rebbe. So there's a fellow that comes here. He used to learn. He learned in Mir. Rabbi Yochanan Ebert. He comes here sometimes for Shabbos. Stays in my house. So he used to live in Chicago, and his older Rosh Yeshiva, Rabbi Birnbaum from Mir, used to come once a year to collect money in Chicago, visit all Talmidim. He used to stay in his house. So he said Rabbi Birnbaum used to like to look at some of the Chabad Tzvorim. Here, the Restum Farbrengen from the Frierdiker Rebbe, the book where the Frierdiker Rebbe writes the accounts of his experience in the Shpalerka. So he used to like to flip through it. So he said, when he used to read the story, he said the story with Petya is like that a goy could be so cruel. But I think that the point of the story is that human beings have extreme. Extreme could be used in the most ugly, cruel way, or extreme could be used in the most beautiful way. So you could, but that it's in us. It's in us. So either we have the coffee with 2 sichos or 1, or we have Rahman al-Islam, that like Petya. But there's always that extreme that a person's looking for. It's in a person to look for that extreme pleasure. So some people get it from bungee jumping. So that's harmless pleasure. Some people get it from flying an airplane. But some people, which is us that are sitting here at the Chag HaGeula, get it from sitting and learning a Shemaker Shtikl Torah, which is Mosok Midvash. We sit here at the jar of honey and we take in some of that and we lick that honey and we let it go in and we let it go into every one of our Ramachei Vorim. The Frierdiker Rebbe, this is a Sikh in Tovshech of Dalet of Yud Beis Tamuz, the Rebbe said that his father-in-law told him that in the Rosh Hashanah Maimed that he said that year, 1927, it's a tzchgeret, like from by itself, all of a sudden it came out of his mouth in middle of the Maimed of Rosh Hashanah, a whole thing about Hashgacha Pratis. That the Baal Shem Tov said there was a dispute in Gedolei Yisrael at what level is Hashgacha Pratis, at what level is God concerned about every detail that goes on in this world. And the Baal Shem Tov said it's to the highest degree that even a little leaf that falls off a tree and and the wind pushes it over a couple of times, that there is Hashgacha Pratis, there's a reason for it, and not only there's a reason for it, but it goes into the general plan of why the Eibusha created the world. And the Frierdiker Rebbe told his son-in-law, at the time he didn't understand what's the connection. It just like came out by itself. What was the connection of this thing of the Baal Shem Tov with the general Maimon? It apparently didn't have any connection. When he was arrested many months later, and he was in jail in the Shpalerka, he realized that that was the reason he spoke about it in the Maimon, and that gave him the koyach, the power to pull through in this harrowing experience in the Shpalerka. So the Rebbe asks, if a person believes in Hashgacha Pratis, at any state it does not. Hashgacha Pratis is not only on Rosh Hashanah. Hashgacha Pratis is also on Sukkot, also on Purim, and also in Chodesh Tamuz. Why was it that was important to mention about it in Rosh Hashanah? And why was it important that it was mentioned in the Maimer? And why was it important that it was mentioned on its own? It's Geret in the Maimer. And what's if the Frierdiker Rebbe decided to give encouragement to himself and the fellow Chassidim by intentionally planning out to talk about Hashgacha Pratis, and not just that it came out sort of on its own? What was these 3 diyukim? That it happened on its own, it happened on Rosh Hashanah, and it happened in a Maimer. Beautiful. This was an opening Sikha of Farbrengen, Yud Beis Tamuz, 1964. The Rebbe said like this: if the Zohar asks a question that the brother said about Yosef, we're not going to kill him. We're just going to throw him in the pit. Wow, that's so nice. Chaim. That's so nice. What do you mean? They threw him into a pit that has nechoshim v'akrabim, snakes and scorpions. They said, "V'yodeinu al tiyeh boy, ki achinu b'sorenu." They're very nice people. We're not going to kill him. We're not going to touch him. We're just going to drop him in Hawaii on an island. If he can survive in the bananas, he can figure out how to drink milk from the coconuts, he'll be good. Otherwise, Hey, they threw him into the pit with snakes and scorpions. That's what the Zohar asks. The Zohar answers. Remarkable answer. The Zohar says that snakes and scorpions are not that bad. Why? Because snakes and scorpions are not Bali Bechida. They don't have freedom of choice. They do what they're told. They do what they're told. So if a person, true, and a person is in a place of sakana, they need more zechusim to be saved. But since they're not Bali Bechida, you don't need to have so much zechus. Because they have to have specific permission from heaven to go and kill someone. So even if it's a zechus is not so hot, a person could stay alive. But if you fall into the hands of Bal Bechida, a person who has freedom of choice, and they want to kill you, you're in much worse shape. Because you need much bigger zechus to fall out of that place of sakon. That's why it was better for Yosef to end up in the pit with snakes and scorpions. That was better than falling into the hands of his brothers. It was a safer bet. The Rebbe said, who arrested the Frierdiker Rebbe? Who were the people that were? You think that the old man, old Mr. Lenin, old drunk Lenin, Stamongegangen, there's another shul or yeshiva. Mr. Stalin, Stamongegangen. It was the Jewish Yevsektia, the Jewish party of the Bolshevik, the Jewish political wing of the party that had it in them. They had this venom, this left-wing venom against Judaism, and they were going to root out Judaism. And they can't just root out Judaism. So in the meantime, they're going to root out also Christianity. And they really cooked up the whole story against religion. I mean, once you rile up a goy, it's not easy to pull the rails back. Like the Frierdiker Rebbe said to Nachman Son Lulav when they're arresting, said, "Come, quicker!" So the Frierdiker Rebbe says, "What's the hurry? Today you're arresting me. I guarantee you the day is going to come. You're going to be arrested. Whatever you're going to do to me is going to be done to you. So there's no hurry." And that's exactly what happened. Eventually, Stalin Yimach Shemai decided he wants the Jews worked enough for him. They did whatever his bidding. It was time to clean up. It was time to clean up the party from the Jews. All these people, these interrogators, and all these villains in the story of the Frierdiker Rebbe and the Shpalerke, none of them saw the light of day. I mean, none of them are alive today, and none of them were alive past 1940. But they were Baalei Bechira. At that time, they were very powerful, and they were running the show. So the Frierdiker Rebbe said to himself that he smelled the danger, and he knew that the danger is not only for him. He was a figurehead, and there was over 1 million Jews behind the Iron Curtain, whatever the estimate was, 2 million Jews. Jews, and every Jew was his responsibility, and he felt that if he would Rachmana Litzlan, he would fall. That would be the fall of Judaism. Therefore, he was a pachat to him. It wasn't only his personal thing. It wasn't his personal suffering as a pachat. So, if he thinks about Hashgacha Pratis, but they're also Baalei Bechira, they're also Jews. But he felt that power from the fact that it came out of him automatically. He didn't plan to talk about Hashgacha Pratis in the Ma'amar of Rosh Hashanah. It's Hotzach Geret. So he felt that was a sign from heaven that there will be an immediate positive outcome that year. And that's why it was exciting to him that it happened at Rosh Hashanah. Mittel Rebbe says, why is it called Rosh Hashanah and not Techilas Hashanah? It's not the beginning of the year, it's the head of the year, just like the head controls the hands and the body and it gives out signals to the whole body of what to do. So Rosh Hashanah is the head of the year. So because it was said on Rosh Hashanah, he was sure that even though he could see on Rosh Hashanah the black clouds that were coming upon him, and by extension upon the Russian Jewry of that year, 1927. But by the fact that in the Maimas Tzach Geret about Hashgacha Pratis, he felt that the answer was also there, that year it's going to end up in a good way. And that's why it was important to him that it was happened in a Maimer. Because a maimon is to bring down something that's very lofty, and bring it down into this world, to bring it down, and he felt that it was brought down, the success was brought down in the maimon. In the accounts that Frierdiker Rebbe writes about his being arrested, he tells a story of, you know, how they brought him into the Shpalerke, and how people are terrified there, and he describes in great detail of how they made people lose their humanity. But at one point, right when he was brought to the Shpalerke, and after they gave him a rough up and they told him, words that not to be repeated in polite company, but so they told him to go walk down a certain corridor and get there to the other side. And over there, he'll go into the secretaries, and they'll take his his bag, and they'll fill out his details, and then they'll tell him what to do next. And he said that accidentally, when he was walking down this hallway, he took a wrong turn. And he realized immediately that there was something wrong, because here there was black, there was candles, there was soldiers standing with swords and rifles. This was just looked like an office, a wing of an office building. And there were offices and windows, and there were benches outside the offices. He realized he ended up in the wrong place, in the Shpalerke. And sooner rather than later, this is going to turn into a major issue, that we went to the wrong place. He said to himself, it's hashgocha protis. Since by mistake it ended up in this place, I'm not going to return to where I was told to go. He sat down on a bench, and he took out a cigarette and he started to smoke. In his memory, he went into thinking about the Torah of Hashem of Hashgocha Protis. And he said that thoughts of Hashgocha Protis gave him such an inner calmness. At that moment, he decided that he will never be terrified or frightened by anything he sees or hears or will be done to him. He will act as if he is the leader of the Jewish people, and he will be chutzpahdik, and he will not let them trample upon him. And he says that all of a sudden he hears out of the office a couple of fellows are laughing, they're coming out, this is the middle of the night, they're coming out the office, they walk the other way. A fellow comes back a few minutes later, one of these fellows says, what are you doing here? Who are you? And it turns out this was one of the rank and file of the KGB. But first, and they went into some friendly conversations. And this fellow was a goy, so he didn't have all that venom against them. And he says, I was a kid and I grew up around Vitebsk, and my father used to take me to the big fair in Lubavitch. You ever heard of Lubavitch? He asks at Emma. There was a very holy man. He lived in the center of the city. I used to go with my father with the horses to go into the courtyard there. They had a well, and we used to take the water there. They were very nice to us. You ever heard of Lubavitch? Says the guy. And the Frierdiker Rebbe said that in a moment there was like a flood of memories of his childhood came into his mind. And he said that then he realized what was the Hashgocha Protis. He realized that the Eibishter wanted that he should step aside of this horror experience and have a few minutes to compose himself. And what's interesting is, just when you read the story, as soon as he realized he made a mistake, he says to himself, well, I might pay dearly for this mistake. And he says to himself, but it was Hashgocha Protis, and it can't be bad. I made a mistake, so it must be a good thing. How many times in life we make a mistake? That's a small thing. The GPS is not working. Waze, Google Maps are off. Waze is not working. And you have to go there, and you give a turn there, and you get all kratz, you get all, you become best buddies with Murphy. Murphy? Murphy's Law? Murphy's Law is whatever could go wrong, will go wrong, in the worst possible time. So I had an old professor in the Baruch College who was a member in our shul. He said, Rabbi, that's Murphy's Law. There's also Jones's Law. Jones has said that Murphy was an optimist. So, you know, we live sometimes with Murphy's Law in our mind and Jones's Law. We live in our mind, you know, and we already cook up a whole story, and then our mind, it's so terrible, it's so bad, when we see the worst, take it easy. Mamash Friedrich Rebbe was a question of life and Hepech HaChaim. As it turns out, when he was released from prison, he looked at the card, the scorecard, and the first thing was Hepech HaChaim. They really did plan, when they took him in there, they did plan to kill him. The slightest infraction would have been a reason to kill him quicker, and then there would not be any help from, and any pressure from around the world would be meaningless once, you know, once Rachmana litzlan, he wasn't alive, Rachmana litzlan. But yet when he took a wrong turn, he was told to go one place, he went the other place, he said to himself, this is Hashgacha Pratis. It must be something good for me. It must be something good for me. Wow, what a, just that simple part of the story. What a lesson in life. Because we always, or not all of us, some of us, while I'm talking, I see some people identify with me. So, you know, some of us always cook up the worst in our mind. And it's not that way. Because really, ultimately, that there is Hashgacha Pratis, and the bottom line is that the pinnacle of this whole world is bringing Mashiach Tzidkenu. And that's the ultimate of why a neshama came into the body. And we are the people, we're the foot soldiers, we're doing it. Who is doing it? Me and you. We're the Yidden in this generation are bringing Mashiach Tzidkenu. So anything, we're the most important things in the universe. So Matach is Hashgacha Pratis for a leave. The Hashgacha Pratis in our life in every detail is incredible. Sometimes we don't see immediately the good in it. But if we were just calm, we sat down on a bench, maybe never mind the cigarette, now that we know the cigarette ain't that great. They would just, you know, delete the cigarette. But we sat down on a bench and we just inhaled a little bit and just think about the goodness in our life. And there's so many times in our life where we thought things are terrible, but really it turns out that the Rebbeinu Shalom, things were twisty and windy, and they were all put together at the end, a beautiful tapestry that was for our good. And we have to assume that every time in our life when we take a turn which seems to be in the wrong direction, it's not. It's not a detour. On the contrary, it's there to help us to take a step higher. And that's what the Friedrich Rebbe said, that when he sat on the bench and he realized that the Maimer of Rosh Hashanah that year, that it sort of came out automatically to talk about Hashgacha Pratis, so he thought about these three things, that it was an Rosh Hashanah, it was an Maimer Chassidus, and it was as if it came out on its own. He realized that for sure the end result will be calm, it will be good, and that brought an inner calmness to him. So for sure, the simple lesson to us, Yud Beis Tamuz, is to pick up a book, to read the story of the Friedrich Rebbe, and most things that happen to us in our life, most detours in our life, are not as harrowing as a face-to-face meeting with Petya, and the detours that we take are not, you know, life and death, like immediate life, you know, Rachmana litzlan, life and death questions. And if the Friedrich Rebbe was able to find that inner calmness, why is he writing about it? To show us how to deal with these situations. So we have to know that the same thing is for us. And Friedrich Rebbe wrote that his Chag HaGeula is not only for him, that this is for every single Yid, and every Yid, even Asher B'Shem Yisrael Yechuna. So this Geula, Yud Beis Yud Gimel Tamuz, yes, L'chaim, that the Geula that was for the Friedrich Rebbe should be nimshach to us, a Geula Pratis, and everything that we need a Geula, and a Geula Klolos of Klal Yisrael, L'chaim. Beginning of the Tanya, the introduction, the Alter Rebbe writes that he doesn't have enough time for every chassid to be able to go spend time with him the Yechidus. He took together all the ideas that he shared with the Chassidim over the years, and he knows them from the inside, and learn the Sefer, and over there you find the questions of all your answers. But he starts with these words, Ach biyoida yomakira ko'amina, he writes. Yoida yomakira kamina. That these ideas that I write in Tanya is not abstract. Is not the psalomdus. Do you know how long the Alter Rebbe spent on writing Tanya? He spent incredible amount of time. And the brother said that sometimes on one ois he deliberated for 6 weeks. However, how long did it take him to write the whole Shulchan Aruch? How old was he when he wrote the whole Shulchan Aruch? We only have a fraction of the Shulchan Aruch. Unfortunately, a lot was burned. He wrote it from when he was 23 till 25. In 2 years, he wrote the whole thing. Yeah. And Tanya, he wrote it close to 20 years. And the lomdus that's in this marvelous Sarayim. They said that Rogachev said, he's showing his finger, the Odrim Ba'emin Kopet Gedav Zan Azeh, that is the veins in his brain that allowed the blood to flow, must have been, he used to show with his finger, it must have been like phenomenal, something never existed. Rogachev used to say, the Svaris in the Kuntas Achra. Like sometimes you see something we're going to learn in Mitzvah Hashem, I don't know how soon, but in the Hilchas and Tilis Yadayim. So there's a long Rabbi Akiva Eger, very, very difficult Rabbi. You know, they say Rabbi Akiva Eger, when he writes Sorechiyun, means he thought the Shas the whole one time. He threw it through Shas, he couldn't find the text. Sorechiyun Godol, he thought through Shas twice. You ever heard this word? You never heard it? In Yeshivas, that's what they say. Sorechiyun means he thought through Shas once. Sorechiyun Godol twice. But so here in Siman Kufayin Tes, we're going to learn Sasugya. But there's a long Rabbi Akiva Eger and the Pilpul, and then he says Tzorechiyun Godol. Understand? And the Alter Rebbe, in 3 words in the Shulchan Aruch, answers all the questions of the Rabbi Akiva Eger. The Alter Rebbe is before Rabbi Akiva Eger. He realizes this question in the Sugya, and the Kuntas Achron, he spends 2-3 lines establishing, proving that his way of learning the Sugya is the only way to learn it. And Mela, all the questions that could be asked in the Sugya is answered. So, how long did it take the Alter Rebbe to write all this lomdus? And we have only a fraction of it, 2 years, from when the age of 23 to 25. And then he gave the Shulchan Aruch, his Rebbe, the Maggid, told him to write it. He gave it to the Pinchas, the Hafloah, and to the Pshmelke, and they looked at it and they said, wow, this is amazing, that this is going to be the Sefer Shulchan Aruch for Klal Yisrael. Tanya took him not 2 years, 20 years. Why? Because the Alter Rebbe says, B'yoydem akira come in. This is not a lomdus. This is not like, wow, brilliant. The Alter Rebbe sometimes has a way of learning the sugya, which answers all the kashas. Another thing, also we're going to learn in a couple of days. All the poskim, all people. The Alter Rebbe has a whole mechudish way of answering 2-3 words. He adds to it. And this was not a lomdus, the Tanya. It's to answer a person's pain. That's not a lomdus. To answer a person's pain is not a lomdus. It's something that you have to feel the person and understand the person and where they're coming from to be able to answer their questions. 20 years. But what does the Alter Rebbe write? He says, trust me, this is the answer to your questions in Avodas Hashem. Why? Because B'yoyda Makira Kamina. What does it mean, these words, B'yoyda Makira? Where does it come from? Sam Chazal. Where does it come from? This Lashon. The Alter Rebbe always, the old style of writing is not like today's Hebrew, where, just write straight to the point. You use Lashon and Malitzas Chazal. You use different languages from here and there, from Psukim and the Tanakh, or from Gemaras. Where does this Lashon come from? B'yoyda Makira Kamina. So recently we learned it together here in the Gemara. Tonight is actually Tuesday night is when we learn the Maseches Tainis. The Gemara says a story about Rochav. The Gemara says that Rochav miyad nikra is a person that says the name Rochav because she was such a woman that was one of the prettiest women in the world, and she was a zoina. Just saying the word Rochav, Rahman al-Islam, makes a person not pure. He becomes a Balkari. The Gemara is trying to teach us something. The Gemara is trying to teach us how much the Zehirus has to be. We think that we have to be careful only with images. We have to be careful also with what we listen to. It's not only the images, but also what we listen to. It affects the Yetzer Hara. It affects the person. We have to make sure that the intake, not only in our eyes, but also in our ears, is what we want to surround our neshama with. So the Gemara says, Reb Nachman answered Reb Yitzchok, Vanoka Marina? I say Rochav when I say Daf Torah, I guess Pashas Shlach L'chem Meraglim. I say Daf Torah, I don't become a Balkari, so what happened? So he said, V'yoyda Makira Kamina. It's not you never met her. And there was no pictures those days. You don't know about it. V'yoyda Makira Kamina. I'm talking about people that know who Rochav, the people who never met, who saw Rochav Azoina, who know her, Beyoida Makida. Those are the people, if they say her name, they become a Balkari. Isn't that strange? Alter Rebbe should use this Lashon in the Tanya, in the introduction. But it's not, if you think about it. Because in other words, the Alter Rebbe is saying, I know, I'm in contact with you in your kishkes. I know the things that make you tick, and I know your challenges, and I know the things that hurt you, and I know the things that really that you struggle with. Like Yediyah, the idea of Yediyah that's talking about when we talk about Odom Yodas Chava, that type of Yediyah.
You're not a stranger for me.
Yeah, I know you from the Kishkes. So that's what the Alter Rebbe wrote in this time. So why am I giving you this whole introduction? I want to talk about the Igris. There is a incredible treasure that is totally misused today in Lubavitch. Today there's a concept, you have a shaila, so you don't know what to do. So we're going to tell the Rebbe how to do. We're going to open up one of the Sefer Igris, and then the truth is there's a long Mesorah and Klal Yisrael that you open up Svarim. There's a concept of a Goydel Agro. There's remarkable stories that's told about the Goydel Agro throughout history. Moidedik stories. Story in 1948 with a whole bunch of fallen soldiers, and they tried to figure out who's who, the bodies, and they used the Goydel Agro, and they later realized that Tzugatroth Mamish Bediu Kalea Lasaida. It works, okay? But that's not what the Igris is about. And anyone that knows that the Rebbe Sichas, the Rebbe never pushed to be published. So they wanted to publish, never was published. They begged the Rebbe if they would allow to publish his Sichas. Eventually the Rebbe agreed, and in the later years the Rebbe looked over some of the Sichas.
At first he didn't want to write.
At first, no, for years and years and years. The last few years the Rebbe allowed that they... So that's why we have a fraction of what... And lately they're printing the Sichas from the Shimas that people have. They just finished the 50th volume, which is only about, they're holding it, they went from 1950 to 1970, I think they're holding 1972. And that Sichas, they got the 50th volume. They just had a sale. They were able to buy the 50 volumes for, I think it was $400. They said that the sale was going to be till Yud Beis Tamuz. The first 24 hours, they got so many things, they sold out. All of that, what did they think? And they had 800 copies that they sold out in 24 hours. So, but these were Chassidim, Rishimis that Chassidim wrote. But one of the from the Rebbe himself. It was in the later years the Rebbe asked that his letters should be published. This Igris Kodesh, the Rebbe wanted that his letters should be published. And that was very involved. It was very difficult work because, first of all, not all the Rebbe's letters were kept. Sometimes he didn't keep an original copy, and even if he kept, some things were private. You can't just publish. And even if you take out the name, everything went through the Rebbe's. The Rebbe looked through every letter that's printed. Besides the fact that the Rebbe wrote it, but years later, when the Rebbe decided he wants them to be published, so the Rebbe went through all the letters to censor that there shouldn't ever chas v'shalom be that that to someone who's alive today or his descendants, and oh, by the way, the problems that you're having with shalom bayis with your wife, so this is what you should do. So the Rebbe put in a tremendous amount of work to vet all the thousands. I think they say there was 32,500 letters that are already published in the Igris. They're holding at the 30 volumes now of Igris Kodesh of the Rebbe. So, but why I'm telling you this is that the truth is that there's a fellow that comes here from time to time, and he's on the road becoming more Shomer Torah mitzvahs, and every now and then he calls me. He wants to sit with me. He has questions for the Rebbe. He comes with a list of questions. He sits down, and he tells me, take one of the books. And I open up, and he goes through. Sometimes he has like 5 different notes, and we put it in, and then he sits and he takes notes. And sometimes I must tell you, it's remarkable how the answers are Koleya Lasai in the Igris Kodesh. But that's not what the Igris Kodesh were made for. The Igris Kodesh was the Rebbe wanted to share. These were his thoughts when people had problems from 1950 and before that even. Down to 1992, when people wrote questions, and the Rebbe sat there and he got hold of it. Could you imagine? 32,000 letters, and this is a fraction that's published, and there's so much that was lost, and so much that's inappropriate to publish. The Rebbe sat there with his pencil and wrote all these, It says, "B'yoyda makira kamina." This is the Rebbe understood people's struggles, and the Rebbe was writing over here. So, for example, there's a letter from this time of the year, Tavshin Chov Daled. The Rebbe writes to a fellow in Israel, Dr. Hakabi. He says, well, I haven't seen in the newspapers any of your articles, so I wonder what's going on. How come I don't hear from you? How come I don't see any of your work being published? And then apparently this guy was very involved with issues with Soviet Jewry. The Rebbe says that people are thinking, this is 1964, people are making meetings and protests and this, what should we do for the Jews behind the Iron Curtain? And the simplest thing no one's talking about, what's the simplest thing? When a person is Rachmana litzlan sick, there's two ways to cure a person. One is to cure the part of the person, if that limb that is ill. And the second thing is to make sure that the person is healthy, so his bodies can fight back. Antibodies are healthy and they can fight back for whatever foreign agents are in the body to fight back. So there's sometimes you have to direct it. And there's the whole goof. Yidnar koima acha shleima. Yidnar one unit. So if there's a yid that's suffering in the other end of the world, and we make sure spiritually we are healthy, the other yid is going to be healthy, and it really works. Like the Alter Rebbe brings that Zois Toidas Adam is Aleph Dam, Aleph is Alufa Shaloidam, Dam is the blood, and Toidah is the blood that runs through the same blood that runs in the veins of the leg is the head. All Jews are connected, and the blood, which is a Toidah, is the same thing. So when a yid puts in energy, and he says that there's another yid at the other end of the world who's suffering, but what can I do for him? What can I do? I'm not buddies with the President of the United States of America, and today, if you are buddies with him, so what am I?
That's a
what
good
I think. His buddies really.
You got executive order.
Exactly. So what should I do? Make sure that you're spiritually healthy, and then the other yid will be healthy. There was a letter that I'm just learning now. Letters to Chelik Chav Gimel. Incidentally, not incidentally. So my daughter, in the middle of the winter, so the girls go to seminary. So we said, why don't you apply to go to whatever seminary? We're all about. It's like in literature also. There's that one seminary all the girls want to go to. So it's like one Mishigas. Well, we said, why don't you go there? It sounds very good. So she said, no, I want to go to the other one. Okay, I'll go to the other one. But then all the girls that were accepted, and she decided, oh no, all the good girls were accepted over there at Tzvaz, Eschana, and she was really upset about it. So I said, okay, I'll call up the administration of the school. I said, please, could you help me out? They said, oh, we're full, it's impossible, we can't. There's nothing we can do about it. I said, my daughter helps me out. My wife makes shurim. It's not one student. She is not one student. She's 10 students. They said, never mind. Call us back on Lag BaOmer. So in the meantime, I said to my daughter, well, let's go to the oil. It was already 1 o'clock in the morning. We went to the oil. It was nice and quiet. And we went out of the oil. So my daughter said, why don't we open up an igris? So as I said, I think the igris is not made for the Goydel Agro. That's a very secondary thing. The igris is made that you take a volume and you learn it and you soak it in. People have issues and questions and you learn and you see how people work out the issues. And what goes around comes around. It's like there's things that people in this generation, certain questions, in Amunah, certain issues, certain challenges, taivas, issues that we have, that most of us have in common. We think we're the only one that has this problem, but it turns out half the world has the same problem. So, and the Rebbe talks to people about it and helps them work their way out, the way through it. But my daughter said, let's open an igris. I opened up an igris, and there was the Rebbe writes to someone, I see your problem, but the answer to your problem is that if you're going to have emunah b'toch, and you'll have a calmness, as before the issue is resolved, as if the issue is resolved, you will act now as if the issue is resolved, So then the issue really will be resolved. Be'emes will be resolved. So I said to my daughter, you know what that means? That means that this other seminary where you were accepted, you have to withdraw. That means you have to say, she said, what do you mean? I'm not going to end up going to Israel? I said, yeah, if you trust in the Rebbe, you're going to call up the other seminary, you're going to withdraw, and then that means that you have bitachon, and you have the calmness, and then you're going to see it's going to work. So she did that, and then next time was a month later. We went to the oil on Lag BaOmer, and we came out of the oil. Who did she meet? The principal of that seminary, and she comes over. She says, "Wow, I can't believe I meet you. When you were telling me that taking your daughter would be like taking 10 students, and when I was reading the minor Lashon, it popped out the words to me, Talmidos Harbe. That we asked the Rebbe should help us, that we should spread Torah and we should have a lot of students. And when I was saying it, I was thinking about your daughter. So she sent us an email that night that her daughter is accepted. So
Just said 20 grand.
yeah, this gefährlich. So that's the emphasis that this is a treasure. This is not the secondary. The Torah is medaberes b'alyonim, medaberes b'shnius b'tachtonim. The secondary thing is that Chassidim used today the Igros. We can't force the Rebbe to tell us instructions how he should tell us. But if you open up the Igros and it gives you encouragement, that's great. But really, the Igros is there for a much more important purpose, which is that it's kedai to buy a chelik in the Igros. If it's in English, if the language that connects to you, if it's in English or in Hebrew, and to read the Igros. Buy a volume of the Igros and just make a thing and keep on turning pages. Underline the points that talk to you. Underline those nakudas that you struggle with, and you see that the Rebbe is. And b'yoidei or makira kalmina. There's no question that the Rebbe knows us from the inside, just like the Alter Rebbe said. B'yoidei makira kalmina. There's for sure that the Rebbe is yoidei makira kalmina. The l'chaim. Like I said before in the beginning of Farbrengen, we should learn not only learn the sichas and the igros. Like Petya said, Petya was able to take his cup of tea with instead of the sugar, he was able to take it with Petya, who was the guy who was roughed up to feed the Rebbe when he came into. So he was able to enjoy his tea with watching the prisoners suffer and this guy dying. So we should be able to have our coffee in the morning instead of with sugar. We should have it with one sicha and one iglis. L'chaim. L'chaim, l'chaim. Soll schön sein, die Geule. Soll schön sein, die Geule. Soll schön sein, die Geule. Moscheech soll schön kommen. Ay, 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 ay. Farbrengen, ask everyone to make a l'chaim. It's a strange 90 years of Chag Geula. I have a brother who's in Shlichus in Russia, and he has now a very, very big tzora, and it doesn't look like it will be easy to get out of this. So he got a notice from the KGB that since he's involved in terrorist activities, that he has to leave Russia. He's a shliach in the city. He's there for over 10 years.
He's involved in the terrorism.
Yeah, that's not a joke. And they had a court case, and the KGB won. How much is the KGB? The KGB won.
Recent?
Yeah. And
somebody want them out of there?
Yeah.
So they make a little stuff.
Yeah.
What is considered terrorist activities?
KGB can't reveal. It's private and secret.
Secret mission.
Yeah. He's involved with the Chechen rebels.
He doesn't help.
How can you do that? That's a KGB. They can say anything they want and they win.
So there was a story. There was a kid. There was a bocher going back from yeshiva, coming from Israel back to America. He had to stop over 2 hours in Moscow, and apparently he had something in the suitcases, not the carry-on, but in his suitcase he had something that was illegal to bring in Russia. And they detained him. He was in jail for 3 months. And as much as they tried, Askonim tried from Lakewood and this, and whatever they tried, it made it worse. Because the Russians are now like, they want to show the, think you think your senator is gonna try to put pressure on us? Or you think, yeah? This guy, they just came back last week. The shluchim, and they had shluchim all over trying to help this kid. They had the shliach was bringing him, brought him his talis and film, and the kosher food for the 3 months he was arrested. Then they were able to get him out. Last 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, it was Friday morning. By the time that his trial was over, it was 12 or 1 o'clock. And they wanted to get him out of this place because this. But how do you get out of Russia when it's? So they figured out. They sent him to they sent him to Finland. And Shabbos comes in at 10:30. Shkia is at 10:30. So they had. So the shliach went to the airport and picked him up. Right, he landed at 9:30. Shliach picked him up in Finland, and he spent the Shabbos with the shliach in Finland, and then they put him on a plane. He came up a week ago. He came here to JFK. 3 months with not Shagas, a kid. They're digressing, these Russians. You think, for a while people came here from Russia, and the Russians were saying, why are you leaving? This is such a good place. We like you guys. Well, where are you going? Where are you going? Anyway, so my brother needs a big Yeshua. They're in the middle of building a mikvah.
What's your brother's name?
Yosef Yitzchak Ben Chana. So have a geula. And every single Yid, us, Klal Yisrael, should have a geula from our entanglements. We should have a geula protis. Klal Yisrael should have a geula klolis, the geula amitas and shleima, Mashiach Tzidkeinu. L'chaim, l'chaim. Oh, Elokeinu, oh, Avinu, oh, Malkeinu, V'shienu, Yoshkeinu, V'nigolenu, ay, 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 Shenis Bekodoi, V'yashvinu, Zaveh, L'chomrei, Kol Chai Le'mo, Heinu Al Yeschem, Achvis, Kivleishis Li, Ois Lachem, Le'elohim, Heinu Al Yeschem, Achvis, Kivleishis Li, Ois Lachem, Le'elohim, said that he was the early years, was before the Rebbe was officially a Rebbe. His father had asked him. There was a relative in Eretz Yisrael that seemed to be slipping off the path of Yiddishkeit. being religious. So he asked them to go ask for a bracha. So he knocked on the Rebbe's door, and the Rebbe said, "Come in." He walked inside, and he said, "My father wrote me a letter asking for a bracha for a family member, so and so, Ploini ben Ploini." The Rebbe said, "How old is that cousin of yours? How old is he?" The Rebbe, like he said, "I want to explain to you. In Tafresh Tzadik Ches, 1938, my father-in-law was in Israel, and I wonder if your cousin had seen my father-in-law when he was in Israel." So he said, "I don't know his age, but I know he was there when the Frierdiker Rebbe was in Israel. I know that my cousin saw the Frierdiker Rebbe." So the Rebbe said, "Bazoi, tell your father that there's nothing to worry about. If he saw the Frierdiker Rebbe Avada, he's going to do tshuva Avada. Don't worry, it'll be fine." So the Yochanan said this Mordecai thing. The Rebbe used to bring a lot of times from a Sefer Kehelas Yaakov that Nossi is an acronym, Nitzutza Shel Yaakov Avinu. What's the connection to Nitzutza Shel Yaakov Avinu? Why Nitzutza Shel Avram Avinu? Because Rosh Tevis works out well. That's because that's the way Nossi, Nitzutza Shel Yaakov Avinu. Yud, if it was an Aleph, it would be Avram Avinu. But that's and why did you say Yitzchak exactly? Say Yitzchak. It works so good. Works so good. Moshe. Because Yaakov Avinu is mitosei shleima. We said that Avram Avinu, he had one child, a lot of nachas. Then he had Yotzim and Shmuel, Yitzchak, Yotzim and Esau. In other words, even though there was kedusha, but there was some place where it didn't reach. There was a blockage. It didn't reach. There was a place that it didn't get there. It didn't penetrate. Because Mordechai had a son, Shmuel, and a son Esau. But Yaakov Avinu, that's why we say Yaakov Avinu loy meis. Yaakov Avinu loy meis because there was bli gvul. It was that because that's also in the sweetest chesed and gvura on the side. The middle line, which goes as high as chesed, goes as low, goes to the highest place and the lowest place. The briach hatichon, amabriach me'achotza lakotza is Yaakov Avinu. It's bli gvul. Nachla b'lim metzorah. So therefore, it must touch every place. Every one of his descendants is touched by it. The Yaakov Avinu had the promise about his children, Ki lo yidach v'menu nidach. Yisrael lois and tshuva b'soiv galusan. Every single yid is going to be returned. Because that's the power of Yaakov Avinu. That's why we say every tzaddik, which is a nasi, is netzutza shel Yaakov Avinu. That's what we were talking about. Yoide Makir. That's what Alter Rebbe says. Yoide Makir Kamina. I'm not just writing a book. It's not a book of Chidush Torah. Brilliant mind who could think of a way of life. Yoide Makir. I'm talking to my people that I feel for them, and their concerns are my concerns, and I can't sleep at night because of their issues. And I think like they think. And these are my eitzes. So that's the pshat of the Igros Kodesh. Really kedai to read as I said, to read the story that the Frierdiker Rebbe wrote of his story of Yud Beis Tamuz, but it's also really kedai to buy a volume of Igros Kodesh of the Rebbe and to read it from cover to cover. Rabbi said that he met a Yid. So there was a Supreme Court justice in Israel. His name was Chaim Cohen, and he was a yeshiva bocher when he was but then he was Rahman al-Aslan. He went sour, and he was like anti-religious to the strongest way. He wrote articles against religion, and he was a Kohen. He married a grusha. He was the real stuff. He was a real antagonizer. So he says that the Beis said he bumped into years later a chaver of this guy, Chaim Cohen, and the guy said that there was one year they were spending time together in his apartment in Manhattan, and all of a sudden this guy said, "I have to go." "Where are you going?" He said, "I'm going to Crown Heights. I'm going to the Kofas Lubavitcher Rebbe." He said, "You crazy?" He said, "Yeah, I gotta go. I'm going." The guy ran out. He says when he came back, he was like a different person. And Rabbi Yochanan said he remembered that this fellow showed up, and there was one of the koffer they used to give to Israeli diplomats, fifth koffer. Accidentally, someone gave him, and he was not a young fellow, someone gave him like this big, heavy Sefer Torah. It wasn't easy, it was packed also. It wasn't easy to carry the Sefer Torah. So someone said, maybe someone should take the Torah from him because it's too heavy. So the Rebbe turned around that moment and said, Ayid vil mekabel zayin oil Torah. You want to take away the Torah from him? Ayid wants to accept the yoke of Torah. And the Rebbe turned to the Chaim Cohen with a smile. He said, "Mekabel zayin oil Torah b'simcha."
This Zakofa took 45 minutes.
And the guy was sweating, and the Rebbe was excited. This guy is holding a Torah.
45 minutes straight.
And the Kitzur, when this guy, so the friend said that eventually he was, even though his outside demeanor was the same, he was not the same. It was he to the extent that before he died, he left at Savoy that he wants to have a Jewish burial, which he said for his friend was something, was quite surprising. So said Rabbi Yochanan that when you think of Rabbi Yitzchak, you would say limits chus of right? What's up, Shah? He was a cute fellow, you think of the Levi Yitzchak as a jolly fellow. You can always find a limits chus for everyone. That's not the pshat. Rabbi Levi Yitzchak saw the pnimius, the zechus, the beauty in every yid. Nitzutza shel Yaakov Avinu, a tzaddik could see the pnimius of every yid, that the yid wants to really be mekabel al Torah. Nitzutza shel Yaakov Avinu sees it. So l'chaim, it's zicher that even at this time where we're sitting now at Gimel Tamuz and Yud Beis at Gimel Tamuz, we're sitting at a Farbrengen, that the Tzavada, that the author of the Igris Kodesh is with us, so he could feel whatever issues we have, he could feel with us, and he's helping us. He's helping us in our Avodas Hashem. We have to pick up a Sichas Kodesh, an Igris Kodesh, and we have to learn it, not just read it. How long? I don't know. L'chaim, we should be out of our jail. Shav Agula Brotis and Agula Klolis for Klal Yisrael. L'chaim. The Rebbe of Sicha Yud Beis Tamuz said his father told him, oude man voor het eerste klas. A rich man pays cash. Those days, I guess. You pay cash, you look in your wallet, you see what you have. So why pay for a first class ticket? You can save a couple $100. Chaim. But if anyway you're swiping a piece of plastic and you don't have the money to pay, you might as well go first class. It's more geschmack, it's more convenient. If you can't, order for the erste class. So the Rebbe said that this is everything in this world that you don't avoid this Hashem. What's the summer? The summer is a time when people try to take a vacation. So the Radvaz, this beautiful Chiddush Radvaz that the Alter Rebbe brings in Choshe Mishpat, that the person's body doesn't belong to him, it's not his possession, it's on loan from the Eibishter. So, sure, he has to take care of his mental health, his physical health, but he has to remember that the summer is really to give us health, mental health, physical health, in order to be Ovdei Hashem. That's the point. That's the bottom line. And if we're already going to take a vacation and we can't afford it, and we're going to be like the Ottoman, let's get erste class. So might as well, when you swipe the plastic, swipe it a little more to make sure that our spiritual needs are taken care of. If it's children, to make sure that they're learning in the summer, that they're catching up on whatever had happened in the year, and that they get a head start for the year. If it's ourselves, whatever it is if we're going to spend all that money for a vacation or for comfort for our body, we have to spend at least that for the comfort of our neshama. The truth is that talking about vacation, we know that Rebbe never took vacation. The Frierdiker Rebbe used to take vacation. I was tonight. Yeah, the Frierdiker. Yeah, his back porch. Yeah, for a little bit. But the Frierdiker Rebbe used to actually pack up and go on dachas. And tonight I went to visit my grandfather. And I'm talking about stories that. So he remembered that as a child, his father packed up with the Frierdiker Rebbe and they went out on dacha. It was a weekend. They went for dacha. They went outside of Petersburg to a place that was going to be dacha. And as a child, he remembered that sitting in a shul was like a little shul. It was like a little town. And he says that the Rebbe was sitting one end of the shul, his father was sitting the other end of the shul, and it was a long, Petersburg in the summer, they have the white nights, Shabbos, you make Havdalah at 1:30. 12:30, you're lucky you can make Havdalah already. A long day. He remembers a whole day that the Rebbe's talus was over his shoulder, was over his face. The whole day was davening. That was dacha for the Rebbe. That was dacha. That was finally a good vacation. He has all kinds of obligations to do this and that. Dacha meant that he could sit and daven a whole day. That was dacha. That has to be that. Okay, so sometimes our dacha involves a couple other things, and maybe having our dacha is a little different maybe, but we have to make sure that our dacha includes a little bit of soothing of our neshama. Maybe it's not a whole day davening, half a day davening, but yeah, we have to. Shabbos is a long Shabbos in the summer. We have to take that jar of honey and dig into that jar of honey. If it's a Sichas Kodesh, if it's the Igris Kodesh, could you imagine that they printed that they found some in the Qumran mountains? They found in some cave they found a bucket of letters that Yeshua ben Nun had with him and Moshe Rabbeinu. Yeshua ben Nun had issues, this and that, and he used to write letters to Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu answered him. Could you imagine what kind of geschmack you would have reading it? But so it's an unprecedented thing. That this is the Igris Kodesh that Rebbe had with people. People had, like me and you, people had questions and issues. and entanglements. And people had turned to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe was beyoidei or makirei koamina. It wasn't just some advice from out some smart man, some guru on top of a mountain, some very clever guy who charged $500 for consultation and dispensed advice. It was beyoidei or makirei koamina, mamish, that was from the kishkis, from the inside. And it's not. We know that in Rabbi there was a beautiful publication came out recently, Techayin. So it came out with the Kfar Chabad magazine, but they were giving it out in the 70s. So they had there an article about the Igros Kodesh, and they were talking to the people that were involved in publishing it. So the Rabbi Simpson, who was one of the secretaries of the Rebbe, said that in the early years of working on the Toshim Vav, 1986, that they were working on the Igros Kodesh. When he came into the Rebbe with a stack of letters that the Rebbe should work on it, so the Rebbe asked, gave a krecht, is anyone looking at it? The Rebbe said. So he said that in the yeshiva in Morristown they have a kovetz pilpulim. So a few of the Talmidim are writing a whole, because especially the early years, the Rebbe had very deep letters and this marvelous Orion, letters to Rogachover. So the Rebbe said, "No, the Bochum. My question is the Younger Light. The question is the Younger Light. So that question we should answer. We have to answer that question now. And this Farbrengen Yud Beis Tamuz should come out a tangible decision in our mind. Like I said in the beginning of the Farbrengen, just like Petya, who took so much pleasure, he could drink his tea, he could drink his coffee without the sugar when people, Rahman al-Assam, were suffering. We have to be able to drink our tea and coffee in the morning, taking a jar of honey and just digging into it. Digging into a Sichas Kodesh, digging into a Igros Kodesh. It's sweet, and it later goes into our Ramache Borim, and it just gives us direction in life. So l'chaim, and this Yud Beis Yud Gimel Tamuz, that every one of us should have a Geula Protis, our own Geula, whatever we need in our Avodas Hashem, and the whole Klal Yisrael should have a Geula Klolis with the Geula of Shleimet from Mashiach Tzidkeinu. L'chaim. L'chaim. As we conclude the Farbrengen, the ikir is a tzazeh geschmack that we sit together, that we should take koyach from each other in our avodas Hashem. The Chassidim said that how do you have a good shachris? A good shachris comes from a good krishma shalamita. And they said, when do you start educating a child? 9 months before the birth. So, because you do it taras mishpocha, v'chulu v'chulu, kadosh atzmai. So, how do you have a healthy gesunte next year? Is by having a gesetz the summer. And how do you have a gesetz the summer? If you satisfy only the goof, you don't have a gesetz the summer. If you satisfy the neshama, then we have a gesetz the summer. And how do we satisfy the neshama? That's by picking up the jar of honey and opening it up and just taking it in some of that honey. Asichus kodesh, igris kodesh, telling you if you take a igris kodesh and you learn it cover to cover, you're going to feel the sweetness. L'chaim, l'chaim. Every one of us should have a gula protis. The Klal Yisrael should have a gula klolis. L'chaim, l'chaim.
Like Winnie the Pooh, he was always looking for honey all the time.
Exactly.
The jar was always empty.
But our jar is always full. Our jar is full of honey. There's always more.
Winnie the Pooh was
See,
a big
oh, what'd you say?
Winnie the Pooh was a big puzzle.
Yeah. It's a club. Oh, I thought you knew exactly when we finished. Oh, it's fine. We finished anyway. Oh, okay.
Like you can have the phone literally like a half an inch off of it and not touch anything.
Drum.
Instead of like, just attach it, bring it close. You know what they need now? A wireless charger.
Next time, I'm gonna get your real drum set.